The sport has been defined by the Celtics and the Lakers essentially since its inception. I think it's fair to say more than any other sport has been defined by any other pair of teams or rivalry. I guess you could say baseball has been defined by the Yankees, but the truth is baseball's been around so long that even though they've won 27 championships and clearly have been the preeminent franchise in the sport, there have been long stretches of irrelevance, basically, in Yankee history, or at least long stretches between those titles. They've been playing baseball since the 1870s. In football, there is no rivalry. To me, the great rivalry in football history will be Steelers-Cowboys in the 70s, but that lasted for 10 years. These rivalries kind of come and go. I don't think anything like that really defines pro football. Hockey, I think the Canadiens for the longest time defined the sport, and the rivalry between the Canadiens and the Maple Leafs for the first, I would say, roughly half of the sport's existence overwhelmingly defined it. Those two teams would have won probably something like 30 of the first 50 Stanley Cups, but they've won basically nothing since. The Red Sox, the Lakers and the Celtics really never stopped. I know the Celtics have only won 2 championships going back to the Larry Bird era, but they've remained largely relevant through that. They've also won 18 now in a sport that only dates back to the late 40s. And then the Lakers, it's ridiculous. The Lakers have been in 32 of the... How many NBA Finals have there been?
Like 75?
Something like that. They've been in 32 of them. So the Celtics and the Lakers overwhelmingly define the sport. So which is the greater franchise? Is it as easy as saying the Celtics have 18 and the Lakers have 17? The Celtics are 18-5 historically in the finals. That means they've reached 23. The Lakers are 17-15 historically. That means they've reached 32. That's a lot better. Their overall regular season records, it's basically a wash. The Celtics overall have a winning percentage in their history of 5-9-4. The Lakers is 5-9-1. Let's call it dead even. The Lakers have made the playoffs 64 times. The Celtics 61 times. Let's call that dead even. The longest title drought for the teams, the Celtics once went 22 years. The Lakers went 18 years. Let's call that even. Head-to-head all time, the Celtics lead, and they lead in NBA Finals games 43-31. That's probably the most significant of the statistics. Those two franchises have met in the finals so many times, and the Celtics have won more than the Lakers. Most of that goes back to the 60s. They met multiple times again in the 80s, and then they met twice in the 20s, the aughts, whatever.
08 and 2010.
08 and 10, and they split. So right now, if you had to say which is the greatest franchise in basketball history, who would you say? Because there isn't any question in the other sports. The Packers are number 1 in football. The Yankees are number 1 in baseball, and the Canadiens are number 1 in hockey. And it isn't particularly close in any case. Who is the number 1 franchise in basketball history?
It is so hard. One might say that because the Lakers have reached the finals so many more times, that would be the tiebreaker, or that would usurp the Celtics having won one more. That person might respond and say, well, they've met 12 times in the finals, and the Celtics have won 9 of those 12 times. They've eliminated the Lakers 9 times in the NBA Finals. In fact, you and I were recently talking about this very question for a future book of ours. And so it is, I think, incredibly important now to adjudicate this for a variety of reasons now for the first time since 2020 that the Celtics have passed the Lakers again for the title of most championships. I would personally say the Lakers are a greater franchise historically than the Celtics. Getting to 32 NBA Finals is insane. And another tiebreaker that I would use is individual dominance, individual excellence. Since Larry Bird, the Lakers have had way more MVPs. The Lakers have had so much more individual success and team success really since the mid to late 80s, and the Celtics have. So much of that water is being carried by success in the 60s. It is not strewn out proportionally the way that the Lakers is Lakers are. And so that's why I would say as of today, it's the Lakers, but I absolutely have the ability to change my mind, and I probably will.
Well, the Lakers had one more dominant era. They had an additional dominant era. The Celtics had the most dominant era in the history of the sport by a wide margin, and they beat the Lakers all the time during that margin. The Celtics then were very good in this. Both teams were good in the 70s, but the Celtics were better. The Celtics won 2 titles in the 70s. In the 80s, they were the 2 dominant teams. The Lakers outperformed them, whatever it is. They won more.
Right.
The Lakers won 5. The Celtics won 3. The Celtics, neither of them were that great in the 90s. Then the Lakers came back and had another dominant era. The Shaq-Kobe Lakers is, if you want to say Lakers, that's what sets it apart. Because they had another dominant run before the Celtics got good again at the end of that decade. So that if you're going to say Lakers, I think it's the Shaq and Kobe teams that put them over the top.
I think you're right. If you go back to 87, the Lakers have reached the NBA Finals 12 times, and the Celtics is 5. You know, that's, to me, that's at least something. Like how your franchise succeeded in different iterations in different areas over prolonged periods of time. Not to mention the fact that Larry Bird is their most recent MVP. The Lakers have had Shaq and Kobe and Magic since then, and that's something too for me. The individuals atop their Mount Rushmore, if you will, that's also part of it. The Celtics unquestionably dominated the 60s in a way that no team will ever again, but the Lakers have had a more prolonged period of excellence as a franchise.
Bubba, what's the greatest franchise historically in basketball history?
Yeah, I mean, I know obviously that we're saying franchise, but to me, the fact that they moved from Minnesota to Los Angeles is a positive to me of the Celtics. They did it all in one spot, and so not all the titles came in Los Angeles. Again, that's just me personally, and I know technically it's the same franchise, so I understand that. But
no, you're right.
But Boston did it all in the exact same spot.
Let me, you know what? That's not bad. I mean, however you want to factor that in. The Minneapolis Lakers won the championships in 49, 50, 52, 53, and 54. So that's 5 of their championships were won in Minneapolis.
Dynasty.
Yeah, they were a dynasty.
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. Yeah,
but that's an interesting question. I mean, or does that matter? Does the fact that the Celtics have been the Boston Celtics from day one, does that impact anything? I mean, people will say the Lakers are called the Lakers because they were lakes.
Yeah, which is
they're from
really
the land of 10,000 lakes.
They should be the oceans now.
People forget about that.
That's exactly right.
Forget about that.
They would be the Los Angeles Pacifics. I mean, the hilarious. You know, it's funny. Sports just do funny things sometimes like that. The Los Angeles Lakers are the Lakers, even though you will not find a lake anywhere near the city of Los Angeles.
Jazz.
Yeah,
which is
Jazz is in Utah.
Exactly in the same way that like Stanford and Cal are now in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Right.
They're both on the Pacific Ocean.
You can fly to the Atlantic Coast from there.
It would be hilarious if the 49ers moved and they kept the same name. They just kept the Gold Rush moniker.
Nashville 49ers.
Yeah, they're just in like Texas or something.
That is actually kind of funny. Like what other? I mean, the Cleveland Browns are named the Cleveland Browns. I believe they were named after Paul Brown, right?
For sure. Yeah.
And he then went on and coached another team.
Yeah,
It
Cincinnati.
would be
right?
like the
He
76ers.
founded the Cincinnati Bengals. The 76ers are the spirit of 76. But
Well, the Jazz are the example right now.
oh, it's a great one.
Yeah,
That's a great one.
They were the
Bob.
New Orleans Jazz.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I've been to Salt Lake City. I've enjoyed my time there. It's lovely. I heard no jazz while I was. I've been to Salt Lake a few
They're
times.
getting a new hockey team.
At
in
no
Utah.
point.
I don't
did
know. I
hear
don't know any
jazz.
other team
Yeah,
keeping
Utah
their
Hockey
name.
Club.
The Utah Hockey Club.
Okay, that's just a fun one. What would be the most ridiculous team to move and keep its name?
Would the Knicks be ridiculous?
Like the Houston Oilers were the Oilers when they moved to Tennessee. They ceased to be the Oilers, right? Houston was oil because of the oil. That would be pretty bad. What else?
And they kept it for the first.
I think
year or two,
the Steelers are definitely one. Probably not the most.
Steelers are a
egregious,
good one.
but they're pretty well known for
Right,
the steel
right.
industry in the
right,
Pittsburgh.
right.
the Cowboys would be pretty ridiculous if they played in like Nova Scotia.
Well, but I mean, now you've just taken this to a ridiculous level.
Well,
There's
that's
no
what I do.
football team in Nova
the British
Scotia.
Columbia Cowboys.
But you could be the Cowboys. I mean, I get it. Yeah, Texas. But
It'd have to be regional. It would have to be regional.
what else?
the Alaska Suns.
Yeah, the Suns. I guess that's a good point. Yeah, if the Suns were, there'd be places that they wouldn't seem to fit. Just trying to think through some of the names. Like the Vancouver Grizzlies were the Grizzlies, Is that because they have grizzly bears there? Is that?
Yeah,
that's a good one.
That's true. Yeah,
That
that's
is a
one.
good
So
one.
now they're
That's
the
one who-
Memphis Grizzlies.
That's one of the
what is
rare ones who stayed.
What is the purpose of the? I mean, there are no grizzly bears in Memphis, are there? I don't.
What
know
about
that.
the Colorado Rockies? If all of a sudden the New York Rockies,
That's a good point. Yeah,
a great one.
that's a good one.
Honestly, the Thunder work great in almost any climate. the Thunder can move anywhere.
What? Let's go out of the sport. Bubba made a good point. Leave basketball. What other sport? What other teams are there that you could move them? I guess we were already thinking about football, but baseball. Like the baseball teams seem like Florida, like the Miami Marlins.
That's very regional.
Like if the Miami, right? Is that where you fish for marlin?
Yeah.
I
Kansas City
assume?
Marlins.
So yeah,
Pittsburgh Marlins.
That would be a very odd.
I
one.
like the Rockies. I think the Rockies is my favorite.
I mean,
one.
look, the Dodgers went from Brooklyn to L.A. I mean, they were named after the trolley
Dodgers
Dodgers.
is a good one, too,
In,
yeah.
in Brooklyn, so
Yep.
it doesn't make sense, but they adopted it, and they'll never change it.
I think Milwaukee's a good one.
The Brewers?
Yeah.
How about if the Yankees went south? Like if the Yankees became like a southern
That's
Georgia,
Feels-
the
feels
Georgia
unlikely.
Yankees.
southern team. Yeah, them relocating feels on the low on the list.
How about
of
the Maple
probability.
Leafs in America?
The Yankees below the Mason-Dixon line would probably be the best one.
Hartford Maple Leafs.
Yeah, the Avalanche is a pretty good one. Like when you think, I mean, they're named after a natural disaster, which is an interesting, sort of, in and of itself, an interesting thing.
It's not
to
a natural
have.
disaster.
The Mets moved to like a suburb.
An avalanche is a disaster.
No, a hurricane is a disaster. An avalanche is a weather occurrence.
It's not even a weather occurrence. It's just a lot of snow
It's not
falling
a
off
natural
a mountain.
disaster.
Yeah, Incident.
Go stand in the middle of one and then tell me whether or not it's a disaster.
That would be disastrous.
It would be. It
Naturally.
We'll wait to hear from you.
It meets the definition of disaster, and it happens in nature.
I'm going to look up the definition of natural
Look up
disaster.
the definition of natural disaster, and you tell me if avalanche doesn't apply.
A natural event such as a flood, earthquake, or hurricane that causes great damage or loss of life.
Avalanche absolutely applies. Now look up the definition of avalanche.
Okay.
A lot of time spent on dictionary.
Washington Capitals and any other city that's
Massive
not a
snow,
capital.
ice, and rocks falling rapidly down a mountainside.
Right?
I think
those are all nature.
Pretty
and
disastrous.
It's disastrous.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
I think the Phillies are a good one. They're just named after their city.
Is that it? I assume they're just the Phillies because it's Philly.
Not the horses?
No, that's spelled with an F.
Yeah, that was just a stupid thing to say. Greeny he just brought this whole conversation. You know what? It was fun, and then Hembo ruined it.
The Sacramento
As is
Phillies.
always the case.
Yeah, that's right. Greeny presented by Progressive Insurance. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at Progressive.com. You know, by the way, just making me laugh thinking about it. If you were to ask someone to define this show, it would be we're all saying a bunch of funny things, and then Hembo ruins it, and I do a read.
That sums it up.
If you want to know
That's
what
right.
is hashtag Greeny, that's what it is. We're all saying funny stuff. Hembo takes it much too far, and then I read a commercial.
I don't know. I was kind of into the Nova Scotia Cowboys. That was good.
That's right. You tried to ruin it earlier with that.
I sure did.